Welcome to the Crystal Zone podcast with Kyle Russell of crystalconcentrics.com. Our motto is Crystals for Life. You're in tune to the Crystal Zone podcast, and we're just taking a moment now to share a word from our partners, people who make this show possible and who might be able to help you in some way.
Hi, I'm Nina Manelson, and this is a message for you if you're a woman over 40 who has been on and off diets for at least 10 years. I'm a nutrition and body relationship therapist, and I help women feel truly at home in their body. I work with smart women who already have so much information about what they should or shouldn't do to care for themselves, but still feel like they're at war with their body and food. If this resonates with you, please visit ninamanelson.com. I have a free ebook for you, How to Be a Woman at Ease in Her Body.
I am very excited because I am in the midst of working on a book, my first book, and what I hope to be a bit of a ground-breaking piece of writing. I am thrilled by the response I've been getting from people. I made a colorful mind map that showed people how I was going through the process, what the outline of the book was, and I got a lot of favorable responses to that. And then about a month later, I put out a mock image of two potential titles. One simply called Crystals, Unique Perspectives on Understanding and Working with Stones. And then the other title was Crystal Energy Zones, Understanding and Working with Stones. And I got so much positive feedback from people that I'm going to need an entire afternoon just to sift through and figure out what will be the best title. Maybe by the time you hear this podcast, the book will be out and I will have made that decision. But I wanted to make this podcast in order to capture what it is like and what it feels like for me to be in this process of writing a book about something that's been so important to me for 33 years. I am incredibly committed to my work with crystals, and I am always learning new things, but I also realize at the age of 55 that it's time to leave some sort of a legacy record of what I have done and what I have thought through in terms of the stones. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an outline of what I have for structure in this book. I begin talking about this book being for you if, and I list a number of different things, including you being interested, but also being open-minded, because I do have a story to tell about how I got into this, and I've devoted a separate podcast and blog to that topic, telling the story of how I was given a free piece of moldavite that changed my world by giving me a major download of information about crystals, not only what the different ones were and what they were meant to sort of do in terms of interacting with our human experience, but also a general geosentience, as I call it, which is my ability to understand and classify stones according to what I later have identified and called my 10 energy zone system. So the 10 energy zone system that I have roughly overlaps the chakras, and I don't have time in a 20-something minute podcast to explain to you everything about what chakras are and about the 10 energy zones, but certainly if I have time, I will step into some of these rooms and show you around in anticipation of the book coming out. I would love for you to have your interest piqued and to contact me to be on the list of people who either get the ebook first or the first hard copies, or if it's already long since published, getting your copy sent right to you. Now, before I get into the explanation of the 10 energy zone system, which is one of the things that makes me different, I explore in the book, and again, I'm not going to get into every detail about what the bullet points are, but I will talk about several New Age beliefs that are so widespread in the community that even people in submodalities like crystals are adherent to some of these bigger New Age beliefs. I will tease you by telling you that some of them that I get into in the book include the idea that light is all powerful and darkness is either malevolent or irrelevant. And another big New Age belief that is held is that if you do what you love, the money will follow, and if you follow the law of attraction, everything will work out. And if you are not succeeding in life, if you are suffering, if you are unwell, if you are dying, that all of these bad things that have happened to you, or all the good things that have not happened to you, are ultimately your fault because you failed to tap into the universe successfully. And had you done it right, you would be rich like all the big names in the New Age world, and you wouldn't be struggling or unhappy in whatever way. So I do sort of confront some of those beliefs. I then confront a bunch more beliefs that are more particular to the crystal world, including the obsession with cleansing and clearing and programming, none of which I find particularly essential to working with stones. And I will, I get into this in many of my podcasts and blogs and posts, maybe a little bit less on social media. But I am a strong believer that cleansing crystals can sometimes zap them of what makes them unique and take away that unique thing which they have to offer you. And so as a result, I'm just less interested in that sort of manic ritual that so many people think is essential. And I'll also touch on the whole concept of programming, which is to say that programming is not something that you do to the stones, they come ready to go. Programming is what you need to do to yourself and for yourself as you think about making your life better. So those are some examples of really over a dozen different conceptual frameworks that exist already in the crystal world, which I challenge. I then follow up with a bunch of crystal concepts which may be unique to me, but are not necessarily confronting any previous belief systems. They're just simply clarifying what I think is valuable and important to know and think about. I define meditation. I talk about spiritual work. What is spiritual work? I talk about the dynamics at work in feeling the energies of crystals. And I also talk about the phrase working with crystals. What does that mean? And these are all very, very important underpinnings for applying knowledge to your work, either on yourself or with other people. I don't have a certification program. I think this book is going to go a long way towards educating people with the information that I believe that they should have based on my personal experience. I have looked at books and I have read things online about crystals that infuriate me because they're so simplistic or they're so excessively inclusive as to be meaningless. You may have noticed this yourself, that if you look at the description and benefits of one stone, you will find a list that may include, makes your digestion better, and groups that in with helps you fight negativity and also allows you to connect with angels. And to me, those are wonderful qualities, but they're not really related, and it's very hard for me to believe or accept that one stone can do all of those different things, or why it would even want to. But when it comes to selling crystals, it becomes clear why the industry, because there are a number of crystal authors and teachers who also sell crystals, and it's in their interests to turn you on to as many different types of crystals as possible, because then you will buy them and that will hook them up in a whole separate way. I'm not that invested in whether you buy from me or whether you buy from someone else. And I'm even less invested in you buying every single stone out there, because I do not believe that every single stone is a must-have. There was a period of time in which I believed that if it wasn't a crystal or if it wasn't a fancy, rare stone, that it was irrelevant and not worth paying attention to. But part of the beauty of my work is that I am learning over time and I am adding to my knowledge. So the book that you see now is the culmination of 33 years of thinking about and working with crystals. That doesn't mean that I won't either put out another book or accompanying blogs that help fill in the blanks and or add new information that I didn't realize that I didn't know when I was writing this book. So I think it's going to be a very fun and informative way to share a whole lot more with the world than even the people who have worked with me for years know about, because they're not seeing the full picture, the entire body of my teaching between the covers of one book. And that's what this publication promises to offer. I will tell you a couple of other pieces to the puzzle. They include things like crystal placements. Where do you put your crystals? By your bed, in your pocket? Do you wear them as jewelry? Do you bring them to work? And I talk about why and how each of those things can be useful. I talk about crystal forms. That is to say, what shape the crystals take. Are they carved into deities or angels or animals? Do they take on geometric shapes like the octahedron or the pyramid or the sphere? And I go through each one of those and explain what makes a sphere different from an egg, for example, or what makes a pyramid different from an octahedron. And it gives you a basis to choose what types of stone shapes that you want. Never mind the types of stones that you're going to be picking, because the types of stones are very relevant too, and I'll be going through and providing a list of at least 200 stones divided either as quartz or non-quartz, and then also divided according to the various categories that they fit into, such that a stone that is a root stone, for example, does not appeal to the belly necessarily, and certainly is not an ascension stone. So I give each, I'm not really giving these stones what I call energy signatures, but I ascribe to them, or I identify for you what their energy signatures are in terms of what it is that they uniquely provide that other stones don't provide. And I tackle a number of myths, including the idea that if you want a certain energy, that only one type of stone can provide that. Now, as you become a more advanced worker with stones and you really start to understand the unique and different qualities of all the stones, it starts to make sense why this one is unique in terms of what it is that can be provided through that stone. But a lot of beginners read online or in a book that such and such a stone provides all these qualities, and I've already identified that it is a flawed offering to say that all of these stones provide all of these different wonderful qualities. It is unfair to the user, and it's definitely unfair to the stone to say that it can be all things to all people. And so when somebody comes in and says, I want such and such a stone because it does these 10 wonderful things, I ask them and try to narrow down what it is from that list that you think is most important. And maybe instead of following that very obtuse and generalized system that you may have found elsewhere, I propose that you instead consider my system, which is much more specific. And if we can identify what it is that you're looking for energetically, there may be another stone that is more abundant or even cheaper that you can use just as well to achieve whatever it is, that thing you're trying to do with the stones that you have. So ultimately, this book is designed to be a help, a guide, a tool for you in your learning about crystals, a way for you to systematize your knowledge the way that I have, so that you can also group everything under the sun into one of these 10 energy zone categories that I've created. It's a very simple, straightforward system that is learnable, and also the book will be that reference for you. You can see all the quartzes laid out, you can see all the non-quartzes laid out, you can see which stones alphabetically fit into the foundation energy zone or the heart energy zone, and I will provide explanations about what many of them offer in terms of an energetic quality. And I'm also planning on adding the value that currently exists in my crystal meditation and affirmation card deck, which is a positive affirmation that you can also add and associate with the particular stone. So you get your meanings and your affirmations, and those appear in the card deck, which will also appear in the book. And in the book, I plan on including all 80 photographs from the card deck, but also adding a number more to illustrate key distinctions and varieties that I think you should know about. And at the end of the book, I explore actually working with crystals, ways in which we can think about and act around the concept of healing, ways in which we can use crystals to sort of communicate and transmit energetically through space and time. These are practical applications. I talk about the laying on of stones, either on the body or on the third eye. I talk about how to think about death and also illness and also wellness. These are all huge, huge concepts that demand to be not confronted, but certainly faced, looked at, addressed. And so I'm really pleased to be offering this book to you. I will say that it is proving to be a lot harder than I originally thought. I have written down all my thoughts, but as I go back through it and as I start to work with editors and formatters, there's the challenge of photographs, which ones, where, how big, how to split up the chapters, whether one section should be in front of another section, whether a whole paragraph can go and be deleted, whether I am really not going deep enough, whether I'm not providing enough information or detail to make a section of the book as fulfilling to read as it should be. So that is a whole aspect of my book writing experience that is something I'm in the thick of, and something that is a little bit scary because we're under deadlines. Editors can work within this 2-week period. Formatters can work within that 2-week period. It takes 4 weeks to print a book. I have a show I'm trying to share this book at, and will it be ready? All these are questions and burdens on my mind, but I hope that from everything that I've said, that you realize what an interesting and educational project this has been for me, but much, much more importantly, how useful and revealing it can be for you in your understanding about crystals, whether you are a novice or whether you are certified and have been working with crystals for years as a practitioner. So, thank you so much for listening. Do keep an eye out for our blogs. We often accompany our podcasts by blogs, and you can learn so much more at our main website. Thanks for listening. This has been a Crystal Zone podcast from Kyle Russell of Crystal Concentrics. Till soon. You're in tune to the Crystal Zone podcast, talking all about crystals for life, and you might wonder where would be a great place to buy crystals. Well, we have a warehouse and storefront, the Portal Crystal Gallery in Arlington Center, Massachusetts, and you can have a look at all our displayed items, and also, if there's something of interest, we have an extensive backstock. In any case, if you're more distant and you want to work by email and phone, we are happy to serve you through our quality custom crystal mail order service. A portion of our inventory is up at crystalconcentrics.com, but you should definitely email Kyle, K-Y-L-E, at crystalconcentrics.com with any questions. We can send you videos and show you all kinds of items which we have not yet had time to upload onto the site. Looking forward to hearing from you.